gotta go. I'm going on a quest.
Hey, how are ya?
Hello, Canada.
You like the dunk tank?
Walk over glass. Hey, rep, kiss my
We messed up. Things got out of hand. Drake's is in bad shape.
Don't take my gold away.
You wearing your rubber boots tonight?
Hello, Canada, or wherever the hell you are. Podcast episode 1. Part 1 is idiocy with my TSN friends. Part 2 is a conversation with Roberto Luongo. If you just want to go to that, it starts about 35 minutes in. But you kind of suck if you skip the first part. All right, Lester, hit it.
Hey, this is JD's podcast. You're listening to JD's podcast. He's not rocking a suit, but he'll tell a rubber boot story. And more like it now. He's gonna talk about life and sports, possibly while wearing just his boxer shorts. But if you know it, you know you're gonna have a laugh. This is his podcast.
Beautiful. That is Lester McLean, my old friend, who you would know from a ton of songs, Trade Center a couple of years ago. I guess I should do introductions right off the top. Should I say hello?
Like.
Hello?
Sure. Hello.
All right. This is our first podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Lester McLean is with me. Christoph is in the booth producing. Hi, Christoph.
Hello.
And my other guest today is Puffy, whose actual name is Sean, but for the listeners' purposes, you will only know him as Puffy.
And people who work at TSN would only know me as Puffy.
Right. And you got that name because we're so lame at TSN that, didn't you, was it Adnan Virk who gave you that name?
No, it was actually Darren DeTitian.
Okay, so
started.
Sean Puff Daddy Coombs
Yes.
was at the time Puffy, and so your name was
popular, too.
your name was Sean.
Yes.
And so we named you Puffy.
Yes. it
That you
stuck.
did that.
Yeah, it stuck.
That's the way we do things here. And so Puffy, I guess I'll start with you, Puffy. So Puffy is kind of the key guy on the panel. What Puffy does when we're doing the panel for hockey, he sits in with us and the guys watch the highlights and we'll tell Puffy what they need. Puffy, we need that goal by Connor McDavid or whatever, and Puffy will get it and make sure it happens. But more importantly, Puffy is also our fixer. He's basically our Mr. Wolf. So if Bob McKenzie, per se, were to kill a man with like an empty wine bottle in a bar who harassed him,
I'm getting the shovels.
you would bury the body in a shallow grave in the canyon, or you would do the prison time. Is that fair?
That seems pretty hard time. I'm not that big.
But you would do that.
For Bob, I would. For Dregs, I would.
Me?
For you, I would.
Right.
Pierre LeBrun, no.
O-Dog, which is actually a more likely scenario of him getting in
O-Dog,
trouble.
no, for sure, because he would actually, it's the most likely one,
Right.
so I would not do it for O.
So Puffy's the guy that would do prison time for us. And part of the goal I want to do on this podcast, I really have no idea what we're going to do, but one of the things I want to do is introduce you all to our friends behind the scenes. And Puffy's one of the guys I work with hand in hand. He's one of my best friends, so he'll be in here on occasion. Lester and I have a long, historic working relationship. You've seen him on Trade Center. What we would do on Trade Center is we would write some songs about guys who might be traded, and then Lester would perform the songs on Trade Center. We did that for a couple of years. But we go way back beyond that because if you've watched TSN, which if you're listening to this, you probably have, we've done a lot of really stupid, idiotic stories over the years. And I like to do, within these stories, songs. Just like if you're watching some cheesy rom-com and there's always like a montage in the middle where they fall in love. Or sports movies, there's always a training scene, right? Started with Rocky, and every sports movie has a montage training scene. So we would add these into our thing. The first one I think we ever did, is that your Rocky? Yeah, exactly. Up the stairs we go. We actually did that for Carrie Fraser, remember?
Yes, we did.
Carrie Fraser ran the Rocky stairs. And what was that song?
He looks fantastic.
Exactly. He's loose. Yeah, what does it have to go?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember.
He's training his hair.
So we won't go anywhere.
So we won't go anywhere.
Yeah. So the first time we ever used you, way back, I think it was like coming out of the lockout or something, or maybe even before the lockout, Steve Dryden, who is the managing editor of hockey, he's also the evil quiz master, which I think I've given away. I gave that away in my book. He likes to keep it secret. A lot of people think I'm the evil quiz master. When I'm out, people say Quizmaster, and I'm not. It's this guy named Steve Dryden who looks like Larry David.
He does,
and is as neurotic as
Larry David.
Lives like Larry David. So he wanted me to do a story on the origins of the trap, which some guy in Sweden apparently was the inventor of the trap. And I thought that was the worst story ever.
Which is fair. That's a fair thing.
It's fair. Mm-hmm. So we ended up doing a story about a quest. It was a quest, and I had a dream sequence where I was in bed with Jennifer Hedger, which was probably the greatest day of my career. And so then Gino Reda appeared in a dream as a genie and then sent me on a quest to Europe to find the guy who invented the trap. And Lester wrote this song.
He's on a quest without a map to find the man who built the trap. He's on a quest from sea to sea to find a way to fix hockey.
So there you go. So that started a long relationship, and pretty much every story we've done. And I guess that morphed into full songs where we did Puck Over Glass.
Puck Over Glass.
Puck Over Glass and Don't Take My Goal Away, which I would write. I should actually. So the funnier, maybe we should do this on a future podcast, but the way this works is that if I decide we're going to do a song, I'll come up with a tune. I don't have much musical ability, although I was in a garage band.
Listen, dude, I got to tell you.
No compliments. This is not fishing for compliment podcast.
I'm not saying you're fishing for compliments, but I think you don't give yourself enough credit. Because,
well, I can write little tunes, but I can't actually do anything with them.
Well,
I was in a band called Hall and Ass, and it was like Hall and Ass,
yes,
like Hall and Oates.
Hall Oates, yes.
That's pretty good. But I sang. I didn't do anything. So anyway, I use my little phone here.
Yeah, go ahead, James. While you're dialing that up, James, I just wanted to say Happy Black History Month to everybody here. I hope you're having a good month. Everything's going good.
Yeah,
it's been great. We have been partying every night. Thank you, Lester. That will be the theme of the entire first podcast, actually.
It's an important month.
Well, Puffy has some. Don't you have some African American genes way back, like 4 generations or something?
I'm sure we all do. I think everyone.
Hope you're not talking about ownership.
Yeah, it was definitely not. No, definitely not.
Okay, what was I talking about?
Just kidding.
Yeah, happy Black History Month to everybody. Okay, so I will come up with a little tune in my head, and then I'll use my little voice memo folder. I'll write some lyrics, and I will then email Lester the voice memo folder, and he will make a song out of it. That's kind of the way it works. So I'm just trying to see if I have any of these. So will this work, Christoph, if I put this up to the speaker of the... Okay. Yeah. So this was... what do I got here? This is Don't Take My Goal Away, the really raw original version that I sent to This is going to be so bad. Okay, buddy. So this is kind of a 80s pained anthem with a boy band feel. It's called Don't Take My Goal Away. This is verse 1, chorus 1. 5 minutes ago, I was a hero. I brought the crowd to life. Oh, God. Highlight of the night. But now the mood's switched. Ref's on his tablet. It's taken way too long. I'm fearing something's wrong. Don't take my goal away. Okay, that's enough.
How long did it take you to write lyrics like that? Like, is that like a 10-minute thing? Or?
I don't know. You know, when Puck Over Glass, I did like really fast. Like I came up with that one night because we used to do in the playoffs. We used to do those tote boards, remember?
Yep.
So whenever there was a penalty that was like really, let's say it was one year it was too many men on the ice, and we'd do a tote board, and then we put like explosives on the tote board, and it started to get really lame, and so I said we got to do something more. So I came up with the song, and that night, that whole song I wrote in like 10 minutes, but sometimes it takes, I don't know, weeks. I haven't, usually a few days here and there. Usually when you're driving. Don't you do like good thinking when you're driving? No, Puffy?
I'm in the bath.
You're in the bath?
Yeah, that's where I do my thinking.
I'm
a bath guy.
Do you take baths?
Several times a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you bath?
I'm a shower guy. I'm a shower guy.
Christoph?
Shower, definitely.
But
is it okay for like a man in his like around 40 to bath?
Yeah, of course.
Because I will
relaxing.
bathe if I'm like freezing or something and have like almost got hypothermia.
No, I fight with my wife for whose bath time it is.
Do you have like a big? Do you put bath bubbles in?
No bubbles.
No.
What about
Just
like
hot water.
oils?
Yeah.
No oils, just
Lavender,
hot water.
no lavender,
But then I let it sit for a bit, and then I go in and put more hot water in.
Do you use one of those little squishy soapy things?
No, I actually don't clean in the bath. I just sit,
So do you get in
I
the-
sit in my filth.
Do you get in the shower after the bath?
Yes, I'll shower after the bath.
Oh, I see. Right.
But I like the bath part.
Nice.
Calming.
Does
The thinking
does
time
your
for me.
beautiful wife ever join you?
Never. I've
Never
asked.
once?
Never once. No.
All right. So Puffy's a baby. That's our first topic. Is bathing okay for a middle-aged man? And you can send.
Seems like the answer is yes.
I'll admit the occasional one I do have. I do enjoy. Yeah, I used to have. Here's a funny thing. I used to get in the bath when you had really little kids.
Yeah.
Stop if this gets creepy, but when my kids were like 1.5 and 3 and 4, we had this thing called daddy bath. So
It's got creepy already.
No, is that wrong?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, creepy really quick when you said daddy bath.
No, if you're I still say that occasionally.
Yeah, that's even worse.
No, but that's okay, right? With little kids,
It's okay to, yeah.
But there
you gotta
came an
be really
age, like when they
little.
got to about like 7, where it was uncomfortable.
I think it's younger than that, but you could go with 7.
I think I might have even been in the bath with like neighbors' children when they
That's
were 2.
illegal. That's illegal. You shouldn't say that on a podcast.
No, like
Edit that
like
out.
good friends of the family. Okay, so I think that's totally okay to have bathe with your children because we had all sorts of little fun games you'd play in there.
Totally different thing.
See, that's
totally different
There's
thing.
nothing I could
yeah,
say.
getting bad, yeah. You
No,
gotta get
it
out
was
of it.
fun. Okay, let's get
Sure
it. So where was I? So Lester
Yes.
has done all these songs, and that's how it works. And he puts songs together for
And
me.
I'm just going to say, like, I mean, even what you played there, I mean, I straightened it out. Like, I evened it out 5 minutes ago.
Right,
I was a hero.
right.
You know, and you know, don't you know that it's a nice, it's just a nice
Thank
course.
you,
You had
thank
it there,
you,
right?
thank
So
you.
it's not that hard. for
Someday
me.
if I decide I'll get really open with you guys, I'll bring in like some of the songs I wrote because I actually started writing songs when I was like 12 years old, and they're like really funny and lame but hilarious.
Hey man, it's coming
I
around.
wrote a song called Velvet Rain when I was about 11 years old. That was, I don't know if it was before Purple Rain or after Purple Rain, but I had no
guess
idea what
after.
it meant. But it was like, Velvet Rain, day in, day out, it's raining. I don't know. Anyway, so there we go. Okay, what I wanted to do, what is this podcast about? We're, I don't know how many minutes in and we haven't said anything. I don't know exactly. Why did we do this? I'll tell you what happened. So I was on Jay and Dan's podcast. Much love to Jay and Dan, great friends, and they started this, I don't know, 4 years ago when they were here, maybe more. Christoph was the producer or one of that podcast. And when Jay and Dan left, one of the higher-ups at the company actually asked me to do a podcast, and I just thought that was lame. You're basically filling the hole of Jay and Dan, which was stupid.
Impossible.
Yeah, thank you. But true. So then I would see Christoph like maybe a year later, and we talked about it, and then I got lazy, which happens a lot. And then I saw Christoph like 6 months later, and we talked about it, and then I got lazy. And he was always here saying, if you're ready. And I guess when Bob started his this year, I said, okay, it's probably time to stop being lazy. If Bob, who's like 3 years away from retirement, can step up and do his Bobcast, which is awesome, you should listen to that, then we should probably do this. And so what are we going to do? We're going to do this kind of stupidness every week and just have Lester or Puff and Christoph or other friends from TSN. I have a bunch of guys we want to get in here. And then we're going to do one interview a week. I don't even want to call it an interview, a conversation. So now the other thing I should warn people about, I don't necessarily think we want to talk a ton about sports. We'll talk about sports always. It's always going to come up, but it's not going to be just about sports. So if you want in-depth analysis of the Oilers PK or something, you're probably not going to get that here. You'll get that on the panel. My general rule, I'm thinking in my head, will be if I have athletes on, they will try not to talk about sports. And if we have musicians and actors on, we'll try to talk about sports, if that makes sense, because that's what interests me about these people, is talking about stuff they're not comfortable with. So our first guest today is Roberto Luongo. I just thought that would be the first guest that made sense because of our history together. Like Lester and my history, Luongo and I have done a bunch of pieces together, which you know, and I figured Strombone One was the perfect guy to have on to set the tone for this podcast. So we'll talk to him a little bit later. And I think what we'll do is we'll add on something at the beginning of the podcast that tells you what time that starts, so that if you don't want to listen to us schmucks, then you can go straight to Luongo. We're going to do that, right, Christoph? Okay, so now the name of the podcast. We don't have a name, and you heard in the intro and part of the song that Lester wrote, he mentioned something that has become a little trademark phrase. And again, I go back to Jay and Dan. I told this story maybe 5 years ago on the Jay and Dan podcast. And it speaks to the power of those guys that probably every single day since, people have mentioned this catchphrase to me on Twitter. And Christoph put it in the intro. So I thought, it's the first day of the podcast. I'm going to tell this story one more time, and then I'm going to retire it forever. And it may live on, perhaps, in part of the name of the podcast. But I thought I'd get out of the way, and then I'll never tell the story again. So if you're sick of it, no problem. If you've never heard it before. Lester, have you never heard the story before,
I've
correct?
never heard the story
Even
before.
though you put the lyric in the song because you're aware of it.
Song, yes.
Puffy, you read...
I've heard it lots of times.
Puffy
I've read it
proofread
in the
my
book.
Yeah, Puffy proofread my book. It's also in my book.
I think everything you've done I've ever heard.
I know.
It's part of my job.
I know. All right, so back in the day, I began my career at CJOH in Ottawa, and I was a news reporter turned into a sportscaster. Back in the day, this is really aging myself now, no internet, no games weren't on all the time, so people would actually call the sports department to get scores of games, which is lunacy if you think about it now. They would look up our number in the phone book and call me. And so I would get a bunch of calls every night saying, hey, what's the score in the whatever, Leafs game, Expos game, whatever it may be. So one night I pick up the phone and I go, CJOH Sports. And the voice at the other end says, hey, how are you? I said, good. He goes, are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? And I said, pardon? Are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? My rubber boots? Yeah. No, buddy. Do you want to score or anything? No. And one more question. You like the dunk tank? The what? The dunk tank at the fair. The dunk tank at the fair? Yeah. You like the dunk tank? Okay, buddy, do you want to score or not? Yeah, the Cubs score. Look, the Cubs aren't even playing tonight. I hang up on them. Okay? So I said, what an idiot. So next night, phone rings again. Pick it up. CJOH Sports. Hey, how are you? Are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? Buddy, look it. I'm doing a sportscast. Get lost. So this continued for a few days until one night, when you're doing local sports, I would do the 11:30 show. Sometimes you get bored. There's nights where there's no games. And so one night I pick it up and I was bored. And so he's like, hey, how are you? Are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? And I said, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm wearing my rubber boots. And he said, oh, what color? I said, I'm wearing my purple ones tonight. Oh, could you put them up on the desk for me? Can I put them up on the desk for you? Yeah. Okay, I will. I will do that. In the middle of my sportscast tonight, I will put my rubber boots up on the desk for you. Oh. So, of course, I didn't. And he was a little upset. But this started what would be, I think, about a 2-year relationship where he would call me every night or so. And every night I would say, yes, I am wearing my rubber boots tonight. Oh, what color? I'm wearing my polka dotted ones tonight. They're white with pink polka dots. Oh. And you know what else? I do love the dunk tank. Oh, me too. So that went on forever. And I thought that was just an okay story, but for whatever reason, people from the day I appeared on that Jay and Dan podcast started tweeting me, are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? Like every single night. And even when I'm out, like at a game or something, and people recognize you, like in the old days, I used to get something about the monkey, the Maggie the monkey we used to have on. People would be like, yo, monkey boy! Spank your monkey today!
I think rubber boots is better than the monkey.
Yeah, it's a little better. So now when I go out, people will say things like, they'll yell at me, are you wearing your rubber boots tonight? So I don't know. I thought for a second, maybe that would be a good name for the podcast, because I don't want to really call it the James Duthie Podcast, because that's self-indulgent and stupid. And it's just a stupid enough name that I think it might work. So that was in the back of my head. And then I put on Twitter on Saturday that that I'm starting this podcast, and like the first 10 people who responded said, you have to call it the Rubber Boots Podcast. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll call it the Rubber Boots Podcast.
Okay.
With James Duffy.
Well, get started on
and
that
Puffy.
theme.
Yes.
Do you have to be in the title? Is that
I would like
part
to
of
be in
your
the title. That's
contractual
part of my
requirements?
deal, yeah. In lieu of cash.
How about special guest star like they used to have with Heather Lockyer on Melrose
That's pretty
Place?
good, actually. I'd take that.
Like she was the main character for 3 years, and always at the end it would say special guest star.
It's either the
Heather
first
Lockyer.
person or the last person are the biggest stars.
Right. So anyway, I guess if you want it to be the Rubber Boots Podcast, so be it.
Do you think that guy's still alive? And would you pay $1,000 for him to show up at work one day wearing rubber boots?
I would. I wanted to meet him and find out. Like there were a couple of nights where I said, "Buddy, what do you do?" And he got all nervous and said, I work at a factory. What do you make at the factory? Helicopter. I gotta go. He just so
Talented man.
I would love to think in my head that the Rubber Boots guy is alive out there somewhere in the Ottawa Valley, and if he could be a guest on the podcast someday. I don't think that's probably possible. But I miss him. I miss him dearly. And if you are out there, Rubber Boots guy, you now maybe have a podcast named after you.
Yeah, that's huge.
What else do we want to do? Oh yeah, we have segments. Like I guess a podcast should have segments, but they'll happen organically as we go. One of the other reasons I have Puffy on the show is because one of Puffy's great talents is he will come up with really weird hypotheticals that when we're bored watching a game, if it's 5-1, whatever, that Washington over Ottawa Puffy will start asking really stupid things. A lot of them are probably too racy for this podcast.
At the same time, though, while working hard.
While working very hard and earning his money and making an invaluable member of the team.
Yes.
There. So, Puffy, I asked you to, we're going to have a segment called Puffy's Hypotheticals. Lester, go ahead.
Puffy's Hypotheticals. It's simply irresistible.
There you go. Little Robert Palmer.
I was hoping for hip-hop.
Well, we can redo it next week.
That was very good, actually.
Puffy's Hypotheticals.
See?
Puffy's Hypotheticals.
Simply
Freestyle.
In the bath, he touches his genitals.
No, see, that's not true. Well,
Probably accurate,
yeah,
though.
it's
right?
happened, for sure.
Okay, we'll work on a hip-hop version for next week. So, Puffy, you present the hypothetical, and
Yes.
Lester and I will answer it.
Now, would you like me to start with sports or something else?
You better talk about sports or the bosses are going to get mad.
Okay, we'll do sport.
See, that was going to be another segment, because I know the bosses will be upset if the entire podcast doesn't have sports. So there's another segment. We'll mix in the two together that we will talk. So start with sports.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I had one question. You're going to be in a movie coming up, Goon 2.
Right, which will be probably highly promoted on this podcast.
I'm sure it will.
Starring role, I should add. Not
yeah,
really.
well, it's pretty
Not
big.
really. No.
So if you could go to any fictional movie sporting event, what would you choose? Like kind of like, Tin Cup, the final round.
You know what's crazy, Jimmy? If he doesn't finish the hole with this ball, he can't turn in a card.
Okay. Well, we were talking Balboa earlier, like the first Balboa Creed fight,
pretty
because
good.
that would be fantastic. Lester?
Man, that's a good question.
I would take any of the golf ones out, because as much as I love covering the Masters, Golf Live is not that great.
Yeah, but if you could be at that final hole on Tin Cup.
When Peter Jacobson wins the U.S. Open, that wouldn't be,
No, but you watched the Tin Cup guy put it in the water a lot of times.
Roy McAvoy?
Yeah, Roy, that's his name.
How about Major League, that game where they
That's
win
the
and
thing,
Cleveland
That's
wins?
pretty good.
Right? That's not a bad one.
That kind of
very
hurts
good
for
one.
Jays fans this year, because it kind of sort of happened.
Well, that's true.
But what about the natural when he explodes,
When he explodes
like
the
the light
lights?
thing?
That's pretty good, too.
And then you're
That's
back in
pretty
like
good,
the
too.
what's
You're
that? The
going to
19.
that's a
What is
long
that?
time
Like the
ago.
19? I have no idea of like eras. Is that like the
Yeah.
1910s or something?
I think it's early.
The 20s?
Yeah.
1920s.
Something like that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Are there cars in that movie?
There's cars, yeah.
Okay.
Space Jam, the final game.
How about Dodgeball, the final game?
That would be great.
But people wouldn't really know, like... that
But do
were
you
there.
know you were at the event? Like, let's get on a deeper
No,
level
it's
here.
kind of like you showed up. Like,
and this is
like,
happening, and
kinda
it's
like
real.
if, say, you were at the Teen Wolf game.
Wow.
And like you showed up at a high school basketball game, and all of a sudden
Right.
Teen Wolf shows up.
Or the Fresh Prince game, where
That's a pretty good one.
where the basket's only about 4 feet high.
That would be pretty good. And there's only 4 players on each team.
Okay. What about, well, football's my thing. How about like, what's that movie with Bruce Willis where like the running back's all gassed up on coke and shoots everybody as he's running down the field? The Last Cowboy or something.
Last Boy
Like
Scout.
that. Last Boy Scout.
The Last Boy Scout.
That'd be good. Or
Yeah.
isn't there a 2-minute warning or something when the blimp crashes into the Super Bowl?
Wow.
I don't remember that.
You don't want to be at that one?
I don't think that's a good one.
No, that's like
you don't want to
90s.
be at the game that Bane showed up, destroyed the whole stadium.
Baltimore or something?
Bad game to be at.
So I'm going to vote for Balboa.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
a very good one.
Okay.
All right.
Puffy, did you have a choice on that? Are you allowed to vote on your own hypotheticals?
Mine was Teen Wolf.
Okay, that's fair.
That would be a pretty good one.
Okay, next.
Okay, so we have a bet who would live longer, and I have plus 8 years plus the difference in age. So I'm gonna guess we're gonna live a long time. So would you rather know how you're gonna die or when you will die?
How I'm going to die or when I'm going to die. And I have to know one of them?
One of them.
Wow. That's heavy.
Well, you see, but okay, so if it said shark attack, I would not go in the ocean ever.
That's exactly it.
Okay, well then maybe this one's better.
Okay.
Would you rather die at 80 or older, but in a horrific fashion,
Right.
or 10 years earlier in as pleasant a way as possible?
This guy is a sick
Like-
man.
No, there's nothing sick about that.
So, like,
like you're
making-
gonna live past
making-
80, but you're
making
gonna be
love.
on. Yeah, making love would probably be the
no,
one.
that's the horrific one. Remember, you're 80.
Well, there's pills for that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Young
that's
man's game now.
I think you need to make it. I think I would take 70 and the beautiful way, but maybe if you made the difference bigger, like 60. Now, like the horrific way would be like something from those.
You'd end up in Dateline. It could be one of those.
Or what those movies, those Saw movies. It would be like one of those deals.
Yeah, or like
Those
you're
dudes.
fishing with your grandson, and then you roll over in a shark. eats
You know what?
in
I'm going
front
to
of
take. What do you? Sorry, eats the grandson?
No,
And
eats
then
you.
eats you.
He has to watch you die,
Yes, that's terrible.
making it horrific.
Man,
Yeah.
this segment's not what I was thinking it would be. I'm going to take the old one because I think the horrific death, unless it's one of those deaths that's like spread out over 4 days, I don't like that you involve the grandson there, but
Okay, it could be-
But if I was just to die an awful death that lasted like an hour, I would take that for an extra 10 or 15 years or whatever. Maybe Lester.
I think for me, I would actually, it depends on the. I always say in West Indian culture, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, or you're the
It's a very thought out answer for that question.
No. You're thinking about somebody and they phone you and they say, oh my God, my mom will say you're gonna live a long life. I was just thinking about you, and I always ask the question, well, what's the quality of my life? Right? Do I want to live long, like to 90, 95, and be miserable and then die a horrific death?
Right.
I probably don't. Probably want to have my youth and then just go out, in a beautiful way. I'm gonna say.
Would you like to
youth.
go out on stage, like in the middle of just a
Just
riff?
die?
Yeah, no, but like in the middle of a
Yeah.
guitar solo or a
Guitar or
sax solo, that would be awesome.
I have a friend of mine. We actually talked about that, and we nicknamed her One Drop because you played one note and then it dropped dead.
Sorry, has that happened to her?
It hasn't happened. No, it's fine.
But you think it will
it's
happen?
a hypothetical that we talked
But
about.
now if it happened, you'd
And now
feel
it happened,
awful.
I'd feel awful, but at the same time, be like, man, I called that. You know what I mean? So
Good point.
That would
You know
be
what I
dark.
mean?
It would be really dark. Okay, Puffy, next one.
Okay, so if you worked as a prison correctional officer, would you rather be at a prison that had Red and Andy from Shawshank, or the Joker and Bane from Batman?
I'm a correctional officer?
Yeah, you're like one of the guards. You're like running.
Well, of course you want Red and Andy.
Of
Red,
course.
like that's the best
yeah.
movie ever, by the way. Thanks
yeah,
for
it's a
working it
very
into the
good
podcast.
But I disagree because they escape, and then you're going to be in trouble with the warden. You're
the
gonna
warden
take some
shot
heat.
himself in the head, so
Well,
everybody's off.
No, there's going to be some major blowback. Well, imagine you're talking to your buddies and you're saying, "Yeah, guess who's in my prison? The Joker." That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
You're not like
Your
if you
chances-
tell them that Red's at your prison, they'll be like, "Yeah, good for you."
Now, when you say your buddies, really what you're talking about is like girls at the bar. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a
Right
correctional
now,
officer or whatever, and
I
I'm
have
a
the
bad
Joker.
man.
and
Bad man.
I just asked Bane how much he lifts.
all right. But you're probably going to die because Bane and the
Bane's
Joker,
gonna kill
you are going to die
Not
because
necessarily.
they're going to break out and you're going to die.
Yeah, but maybe you're off that day. You don't work every day.
All right, is that it, or is there any more hypotheticals?
That's all I got right now. I don't want to waste them all in week 1.
Okay, fair enough. So that is, you want to play that segment out, Puffy?
How to do it? Yeah. Puffy's Hypotheticals. It's really loose here.
In the bath, he touches his genitals. Right? No, we're going to get a hip-hop version of that for you next week.
Sure.
Thank you, buddy.
Let me know what you need.
So should we talk about sports just for a couple minutes? Just because
Raptors made a trade.
Okay, what did you think of that? First of all, I should say Puffy's a massive Raptors fan. He watches every single game. Serge Ibaka is now a member of the Raptors. We were taping this on Tuesday, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. The Raptors, probably about a half an hour before we started taping this, sent Terrence Ross and draft picks to Orlando for Serge Ibaka.
Only one pick.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Is it a good deal, Puff?
Yes.
Okay. Is he the answer?
I don't know if he's the answer, but they needed to do something before Kyle Lowry.
Can they get back in the second seed this way?
Yeah, for sure. Why? They can go on a run.
Can they beat Cleveland this way?
No.
No. Will they do anything else?
Probably. I mean, they have lots of pieces now to do something.
Right.
So they're definitely well positioned.
Terrence Ross was. I know that Lester loves Terrence Ross, and there was just moments, and he played much better this year. This is a step up,
great year,
but still too inconsistent. Like, it doesn't. Does it bother you as a fan that Terrence Ross is gone?
Like the day he signed that contract.
Right.
Everyone thought that was the worst deal ever. Like, I can't believe he's making $10 million.
Until everybody else started signing.
Everyone started making huge
$17 million a year.
So I mean, he is what he is. He's a good player, but he's very replaceable.
For me, I guess I look at it from, this is a guy that not too long ago won the slam dunk contest, and had a lot of momentum as a player. But you're right.
He's just all over the map.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You need consistency, and if this trade allows them to get some consistency, and they listen, and good on them for making a move at this time, because clearly when your star player essentially calls you out,
right,
you got to do something. You got to respond.
I'm trying to talk sports with subjects that you guys love because you've been kind enough to come in here. And Lester's a massive Habs fan.
Massive Habs fan.
Would you fire Michel Therrien right now and hire Claude Julien this second?
If I could do it, yes.
Legal disclaimer.
This is Christoph, the producer. Just so you know, we taped this podcast about 2 hours before Therrien was actually fired. Who knew? Now back to the podcast.
Yes.
And listen, no disrespect to Mr. Therrien. I think he's done a great job this year so far. But I believe with this team, there's more talent. I mean, people were talking about this team 2 years ago as a team that's just Carey Price. And then Carey Price got hurt. Look what happened last year. Disaster. And in fact, at that time, the worst winning percentage of any.
And that was the
history.
built-in excuse last year for Therrien, and everybody wanted them fired last year, was you didn't have Carey Price. And this year that excuse is not there, although Carey Price hasn't been himself. But
Carey hasn't been great, and listen, everybody could see that. But at the same time, there's still enough pieces there. And Therrien, like I said, he's a good coach, but I find that he's got one system. You can't play to lose all the time. Right. Play not to lose, rather. And I believe that's what they're doing. They're not aggressive enough, and I believe a change is necessary because you can't change. They've got good pieces, James, that there's no reason why they can't.
Well, and Julia, how many, the French-Canadian thing's a big deal in, or bilingualism at least, in Montreal, and there's not many coaches of that quality.
That's the thing. They're always so hamstrung by how many people that can actually get the job.
Yeah.
Big time.
Mark Crawford's sitting in Ottawa as an assistant who speaks perfect French too, but if you could get Julia, I would. That's probably enough sports. Let's say... Play the sports theme again.
There's nothing to play. It was just like, you better talk about sports unless the boss... Oh, wait. You going to talk about... How'd it go again, guys? Help me out.
Talk about sports or the bosses will get mad.
That's it right there.
Right.
Done.
You better be better next week. This is... Like, we have other guitarists in the network.
We don't, James.
I wanted to also keep this kind of short because I know some podcasts run like 2 hours, which I think like an hour, a half an hour of us and a half an hour of the interview probably is right. I think we're around a half an hour. So I guess we'll wrap it up for episode 1. I want to ask you folks to tell me what you want. If you want, if you want to get rid of Puffy right away, I can make that happen.
You can.
If you guest suggestions, we're going to have, like I said, I want actors, singers on here. We're going to have some of the guys from Goon 2 on, some of the guys from Letterkenny, which is a fantastic show.
They're good.
Jared from Letterkenny is going to be our guest next week, I believe, on the podcast, who's also played Don Cherry in those TV movies a while back. He's a fantastic actor, and that show's amazing. So write me on Twitter, TSN James Duthie. What's your Twitter, Puff? Our Boy Puff?
Our Boy Puff.
Our Boy Puff. Lester, you got a Twitter?
Lester McLean.
Christoph, you got a Twitter? I don't
Made by Stoff.
Made by Stoff, like Stoff? F. I'll tweet it out at some point. So thank you. Like I said, we really have no freaking clue what we're doing here, but we'll take your suggestions, and I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of the podcast, which is not over. Oh, wait, one more question. Don't play us out yet. What do you guys want to know from Luongo? Because I don't want to talk about the Florida power play or anything with him. What do you want to know anything from Luongo? I think we'll talk about a lot of the skits we did in the past. We'll talk about Strombone 1 and his Twitter. We'll talk about his addiction to fantasy football.
Nice.
And poker.
I actually wanted to know about his transition from Vancouver to...
I don't care about that.
You don't care about it?
No,
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Puffy, you want anything to know from Luongo, the panel intern?
If he was going to have a key party, who would he invite as far as famous
Couples?
couples? Yeah.
That sounded like it should have been in Puffy's Hypotheticals.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
was.
very good question.
I
Okay.
forgot it.
Okay.
Wow.
Roberto and Gina, a beautiful couple. I will ask them that.
Ask him if
what
his
I'd like
sense
to
of
know.
humor has ever gotten him in trouble on
Okay.
Twitter.
It has. I know a few times, so I will ask him that. Okay, so the Roberto Luongo interview is next. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. This is JD's podcast. You're listening to JD's podcast.
We are proud to select, with the 4th selection, Roberto Luongo from Val-d'Or.
Puts it out in front. Luongo, great save on O'Reilly.
What a save made by Luongo.
Luongo with a great save.
Oh, what a save made by Luongo with the glove.
Number 1, Roberto Luongo.
Bobby Lou, I cannot believe it's true. Never thought I'd see the day that you'd be back in FLA.
That was Lester McLean's song that we wrote about Bobby Lou the year he got traded from the Canucks back to the Florida Panthers. And Roberto Luongo is our first guest ever on whatever the hell this podcast is called. All right, is this, in the honors in your career, top 5, top 3 this moment?
Top 1, no doubt.
Thank you.
Humbled to be first guest ever. Thank you so much.
Well, I know, and I can tell, by the way, when I texted you and asked you last week, I think I wrote...
Took me 4 days to respond.
Yeah, that's part of it, but I said, I'm starting a podcast, and would you like to be my first guest? And your one-word answer was weak, as in W-E-A-K, and I don't know if you meant you as the first guest or me doing a podcast.
Well, I was actually referring to both. I mean, podcast is very...
It's very 2009 or so.
It's a bit of a downgrade from, what I mean?
Yeah, my career's gone that way, buddy. You know what's happened.
Yeah,
you've read the news.
Mirroring each other as far as career pathwise,
We're washed up together, baby.
Yeah.
No, I should, I think I get asked an awful lot about, probably more than anything else I've done, about the pieces that I've done with you. So I'm going to do a little history as part of this interview. Because as I told you on the phone, I don't really want to spend too much time talking about your PK, as good as it may be in Florida. Yeah. So I had not met you ever, I don't think. I might have been in a scrum or something with you at some point in your career, but what happened was Steve Dryden, who is our managing editor, who I think you met in here, the guy who looks like Larry David, when you were the panel intern, he wanted to do a story about what it's like to be a backup goaltender, and he'd had some chats with Jamie McLennan back when Jamie was your backup in Florida. So he wanted me to go down and do a very serious piece about the life of a backup goalie behind a star goaltender. And I thought that was dumb as hell. And so Noodles and I talked, and we dreamt up this idea about how the backup goalie was pretending to be nice, but secretly was jealous and wanted to off the starter. And I'm going to be frank with you. When I was a little intimidated, I guess, in a way, because I didn't know you. And I don't want to say you had a reputation. That's not true. But I don't know if you were shy back then, or reserved, or I guess some jerks use the word aloof. But were you like that earlier in your career? Because you weren't that way at all. But I was kind of scared you would be that way. Is that fair?
I was shy. I mean, I didn't talk to a girl for the first time until I was like 17 years old. So.
Okay, well, hold on. What was that like? That's what this podcast should be about. What was her name?
I don't know. I don't even remember. But I barely made eye contact. It was.
Does she remember?
I was very, very, very closed in. I didn't have very good social skills when I was younger. So yeah, that's why I was probably didn't talk much or anything like that. But once you got to know me, meaning like, let's say for example with Noodles, once we became friends with somebody, then obviously I became more comfortable and I was able to express myself. So that's why when you came in and you're so like approachable, it was just so natural for me to
So back to that girl though, when you were 17, was that at a dance or something you talked to her, or?
No, it's just a school, man.
All right. Yeah, so anyway, we show up, and the actual very first words I think I ever said to you, because you were on the ice practicing, and the first scene we had to film was the Noodles running over you with the Zamboni. And so, and I didn't even know what I said. You came off the ice, and I said, hey, Roberto, could you stay on the ice? We want Noodles to run over you with a Zamboni. And when you said sure, that was very comforting to me, and I think that was the start of a wonderful relationship.
But by the way, like, for that scene, like, aren't you surprised like I didn't win any, like, acting?
No, the cutaway of you with terror in your eyes, I think it was brilliant. Again, when they put you in the Hall of Fame, if that is not a part of the montage video at the beginning, I will be very, very disappointed.
At the beginning, or should it be like the last, like closing?
The last thing before you come up on stage. And also, not to get ahead of things, but would that piece, or me in particular, get mentioned in the speech, and would it be before or after Gina, your wife, and your parents? What do you think?
I think I'd just throw you between my parents and my wife, like, just to...
Okay.
Just the connection is so strong, you want to make sure you mention the most important people together at the same time.
Okay, thank you. That feels good. So we did that story, and then, now was that the year that you got traded to Vancouver, right after that, or was it the next year? Do you remember? I don't know. I have no idea when we did this, and I didn't do any research for this.
I think, okay. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think it's the year I got traded, because I don't think Noodles was the goalie. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't want to like.
This will be a great podcast. You and I just sitting around trying to remember what years things were.
Yeah, let's.
But anyway, that was a famous moment.
Is why you'll have millions of listeners by the time it's all said and done.
Noodles running over Luongo with the Zamboni.
Luongo this, Luongo that. Sick of it. If only.
So that was one of the stupidest things that we've ever done, I think, at TSN at the time, but people seemed to like it, and it showed another side of you. And then I think we lost touch a little bit. We might have done a couple of interviews, but somewhere along the way, in the midst of what was a very tumultuous time in your career, that year with you and Schneider together, and I guess that was the lockout season, right? And where nobody knew what was going to happen.
We did a few other ones between that.
Yeah, we did. Are you right? We did the poetry thing first, right?
We did the poetry one, and then we also did another one,
like an interview or something, where we talked about your bathroom incident.
More about the bathroom break, the one where I started.
Do you want to come clean on that, or has that been done already? Have you?
No, that's done and over with. Like,
was that? It was full blown though, like the full blown D, right? In the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
Right.
Explosions and everything.
Right. Did you have time?
Did I ever tell you the story of? I mean, I've read it a few times. I've said it a few times. I don't know if you ever heard it. Like the next day, or a couple days after we were eliminated, we were at Kitts Beach on the patio having a drink, and then there was like a big fire truck that just drove by, and the guy in the fire truck threw a roll of toilet paper on our table.
That's outstanding. See, that's Canadian hockey fans. That's what you're missing now.
I know.
That would not happen in Sunrise.
At the time, it wasn't even really official that that was happened. But I guess the story was out already.
That's fantastic. So then we did that story. I remember, and then we did poetry.
Human eclipse, rhinoceros hips. Who will laugh last when I slash your calf? Bring me peace. Make it cease. Get your big ass out of my crease.
There you go. That was one we wrote about Dustin Byfuglien. That was a special one. I wanted to say, too, I should have said this off the top, because I've never done a podcast before, and I don't know if you've ever been on a podcast before, and I'm going to ask you questions that you wouldn't be asked in hockey scrums, that maybe you should have a safe word that if the question was uncomfortable for you, you could just say the safe word and I'd move on, because I want this to be a happy place for you. So maybe you could use
like a Strombone or something.
Yeah, or maybe you could just say Bufflin. All right, from here forward.
That's not a safe word. That's more of a like anxiety word.
Oh, so that doesn't work.
No.
Same with shootout.
I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe when I say that word.
Okay, so do you want to go with Strombone?
Yeah, let's go Strombone.
All right, fair enough. So the poetry thing, the funny thing about the poetry is I talked you into doing this one, and I got on the plane to Vancouver, and we actually hadn't written any poems. and I had literally a 10-minute window with you, because I don't know if it was a game day or the day before game day. So
I think it was the day before game.
I wrote some poems, and then you did some poetry editing, and we brought a little funny cap for you. And the thing that I remember most about that one is that most people, particularly women, thought that you had written all this poetry and you were the most sensitive guy in the world. Did you hear that feedback in bars or any establishments that you were in afterwards?
Well, I thought I did write the poem.
Well, I'm not saying you didn't. You had a say, certainly. I'm not trying to take any credit away from you here.
No, it was a joint effort, mostly by you.
Right.
But somebody has to play the role, right?
But people actually thought you were a poet. Did anyone ever ask you afterwards, how long have you been writing poetry?
I don't recall. I don't remember anybody asking me that. But,
maybe the Sedines?
No, they definitely knew it wasn't me. But it came out well. I mean, even I was impressed by the way that everything in such a short time, literally we did it in 10-15 minutes, that we were able to like bang them all out like that without any problems.
Now, the next one I'll give you full credit for, because during the lockout year, when you and Schneider were together and there was going to be all sorts of awkwardness, you kind of texted me out of the blue and said we should do a story about the two of us, battling to be the number one, and even though we were acting like it was really nice, behind the scenes there was this big fight. We have a little clip from that.
Number 2? Nope. Number 1.
Again, the bottom level humor. You make a poop joke, and that was probably the thing that people remember most from that piece, right?
Yeah, that was a good piece, actually. That was the one I enjoyed doing the most, just because that's all people were talking about at the time was, me and Schneids, and obviously making it something that it wasn't. So I thought it was a fun little idea. And obviously Schneids is great guy. He was into it right away, and
he came with material. Like he came with material.
He contributed and had his own ideas, which was perfect, right? So that's why we got along so great the whole time together, and didn't make our situation an issue, just because we're just easy going and wanted to make the best out of a tough situation for probably both of us.
You don't have to name names, but has there ever been a backup that you did not get along with, that you despised?
Yes, there's been one in my whole career.
Do you want to?
I did not really enjoy much.
Early, late?
It was early in my first go around with the Panthers. His name's Jamie McLean. Just kidding. No, but there was one guy that I didn't really enjoy playing with, just because you could feel that he was there, and he wanted, I felt like he wanted me to fail just so he can play, and I didn't like that feeling, to be with a backup that generally wanted you to fail. Like I didn't like that feeling at all.
Right, but that would be difficult, because deep down in your soul, when you want to play, I mean, it's different when a guy like Noodles, who he's there to play 12 games a year or whatever, that's different. But even in Schneider's situation, and you're right, just a fantastic guy, but both of you guys wanted the Nets so badly, it would be difficult deep down. I mean, if you're watching him out there and he's posted back-to-back shutouts, you have to be going, oh, Jesus, when am I going to get back in, right?
Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, that's the nature of being a competitor and wanting to play, no doubt. But there are certain things the way you go about certain things, as far as still being supportive for one another. You want the guy to succeed, because obviously you want your team to succeed and win and try to go as far as you can. That being said, yeah, of course we all want to play. Who wants to sit on the bench and watch hockey games all the time is unheard of. But you still have to support your partner. I mean, that is the way it goes. And with this particular backup, you could just tell that he wasn't really supportive. And
could you get rid of him? Could you go to the GM and say, I need a different guy?
No, it wasn't me. I didn't get rid of him. I think I don't remember how it happened. It was a long, long time ago. But I think he was only on a 1-year deal, and he was gone after the one season. So
okay, I'm gonna go on Hockey DB and look that up. How's Rhymes? You get along with him as well as the other guys?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's really laid back and easygoing, and that's what I enjoy. With a partner, is just he wants to play. Obviously, he's a great goalie, and he's a number one goalie, and but we support each other, and when he plays, I want him to do well, and when I play, I'm sure he wants me to do well, and we've been sharing the net a lot more this year because I'm a senior citizen, and then I can't play 60 games anymore, so it's been good for both of us.
Right. So you've been happy you're happy with your workload. You have had a couple of little I don't know what to call them. You've been angry a couple of times when you got pulled, which I'm not used to from you in your career. Is that just the circumstance of the team, or was that anger with the coach?
Well, no, just the one game I was angry. That was the mini game, just because for some reason I always suck at mini. So it was just something happens in that building for some reason where I can't play hockey, and I always ended up looking pretty bad there. The other game, I don't know if you're referring to the LA game. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, what was the one where you got they started him and they put you in, and then they yank you back out?
Game. No, I mean, I was angry, but I wasn't like aggressive angry where I was punching things on the wall. I mean, I just kind of tossed my stick like the Salt Bay guy, on the internet. I just flexes his forearm and just lets the salt go, and I did that with my stick. So
yeah, well, because it's just you're so laid back. It's rare to see you that way, but I know you're passionate like that. And do you ever punch walls behind the scenes? Have you ever done that? Have you ever destroyed anything in your dressing room or in the hallway?
Not Ed Belfour style, but mostly in my own sticks. I don't like to damage other people's property. A lot of bad stuff can happen from that. Lawsuits.
I think
things like that.
You were angry when you were left out of the puck over glass video.
Puck over glass.
Did that was that something where you lost it a little bit somewhere?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was anger.
Thanks for bringing that up.
There was a tirade you unleashed on me, I believe, over text. So the last one then was my favorite, I think, which was the panel intern. That was when you made your long-awaited debut on the panel. And the reason that was my favorite was because we were doing a doubleheader, I think a split doubleheader that day, and we had about half an hour to film this. And I had no script, and so we just kind of made it up as we went along. And the panel intern.
We're just rehearsing. Let's give Roberto a chance.
Really?
Yeah, pretend you're on the panel. Go for it.
Jonathan Toews always seems to score the big goals at the right time.
My contract sucks.
Well, my favorite part was when Noodles walks in and he's throwing me the jacket, and we kept messing up because I was laughing. I can't even remember his line. I would have to watch it again, but he was saying, this is the way that he walked in and said something. It was just cracking me up every time.
Well, he said, I said, Noodles, you remember Roberto? And he says, yeah, sorta. which was again all ad-libbed and wonderful. But did you actually? You did a good job as an analyst, but was that experience enough to say, is this something you might want to do when you're done, knowing that the years are, I don't know, I'm going to say days are numbered, but you might be down to your last couple in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. My first choice preferably would be, I'd like to be a part of management somewhere. I enjoy managing. I know this might sound silly, but I'm really into like fantasy sports and managing teams and players and all that kind of stuff. And I find it fascinating to be able to try to assemble the best team possible, with restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, eventually I'd like to maybe make my way there, but I definitely something I'd consider. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and it's funnier now that I've gotten older. I know a lot of more people in the media, it seems, than actual players in the league. So it would be something that I'd be interested in.
Do you do fantasy hockey? I know you do a ton of fantasy football, not fantasy hockey.
No, I don't do. I just do. I do football and I do baseball during the summertime. Mostly. I mean, I started really getting into basketball as well. I do a lot of DraftKings.
Really?
Lineups and stuff like that.
Don't you have about 12 fantasy football teams or something? Leagues that you're in?
Yeah, this year I cut back. I only did 11. So, you try to, time is precious, so I try to cut back a little bit.
How do you, I guess athletes do have time off, right? So one thing I'm always amazed at with hockey players is they're always wizards with technology because they have so much time sitting around in their hotel room. So is that where you spend your time, certainly from September to January, is playing with your fantasy football league teams?
Yeah, mostly. I think, it's something that I enjoy and I take seriously, and that's part of the, being an athlete and the competitive nature, and it has nothing to do with, winning, let's say, money per se or anything like that. It's just good competition, right? It's fun. I do 3-4 of them with fans on Twitter or people that I know, just out of pure, competition wise. And as you know, when you're on the road, you got a lot of time to look at that stuff. When you're home, not so much. You got a family, but as you know, I spend a lot of time in the bathroom, so I do a lot of my work there.
So that's an ongoing problem. It wasn't just that night in Anaheim.
Yeah, no, that's a problem that I've had my whole life. So I mean, you just got to deal with certain things and make the best out of them.
You're joking, right? Do you really have problems? Well,
I mean, I have on game
we get
days
into detail?
Just for.
Oh, is it nerves?
Yeah, it's probably nerves plus IBS, stuff like that. But on game days, I go to the bathroom 5 to 6 times a day.
Whoa!
So
we're talking number 2 here.
Yeah, number two. It's not very enjoyable. Once you get to your 5th or 6th a day, the wiping is not as enjoyable as the early morning one.
You need to use those baby wipes?
Yeah, no, I'm all over the baby wipes.
Do you actually carry some with you?
I do. I have they're called, this is hardcore podcasting right here. They're called Preparation H wipes.
Right. So you should get it. If I get you a deal on this. Hi, everyone. I'm Roberto Luongo. On game days, I have to crap 6 times, and that's why I carry with me Preparation H wipes. Preparation H for goalies like me. Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I probably spend a paycheck a year buying these things, so I might as well make a little money off of it, no?
Wow, that is... Well, I guess that's the kind of information we hope to get on podcasts. Now, have you ever had that Anaheim incident when you left the game was the only one that's ever happened, though, right? Have you ever had... Yeah,
that's the only in-game incident, but I've got to tell you, it's happened a lot of times where I'm like, oh, man, I kind of have to go, but...
Has it ever slid out a little bit? Right? Slid out during the game a little bit, ever?
No, that's never happened.
That would be
crazy now.
That would be awful. Okay, well, I get that. I used to have, when I played in, touch football, which is beer league touch football, is very comparative to the National Hockey League playoffs, as you know.
Very physical.
I'd have moments like that too, but that's fascinating that you have that every single game. Do you think that's just nerves related?
I think so. I mean, it just happens on game days, right? So it has to be somehow connected. But it happens throughout the whole day. So I don't know. Maybe it's just become like a routine now that my just automatically that's what it happens. But
so gold medal game, Vancouver 2010. How many?
That was an afternoon game, so it cut back into it a little bit. So probably not as much.
Oh, dear. The things we have learned. See, I wanted to learn things.
This has gone off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the whole point of it. What else did I want to talk about? Okay, the Twitter account. I think I would be wrong to take any credit. I would say that more than maybe any other player that you have, when we talked about off the top, that the sort of reputation you had as whatever it was at the beginning of your career, of being distant or aloof or whatever it was, that you have changed that more than any other player. And I think part of it's the pieces we did on TSN, but most of it is probably your Twitter account, which I knew about early. I think I was probably your 110th follower or something like that, and you didn't want anybody to know about it. But eventually, sleuths on the internet did their research and realized that a bunch of Canucks were following you. And why did you want to keep it quiet?
Well, because that was the whole point of it. I think it was a place where I could be myself, I guess, and just act the way I would normally act in a locker room, or when there wasn't any cameras or microphones around. And I think as people started finding out and it got bigger, and people started, seeing what type of person I really was, and I just kept rolling along with it without really actually confirming 100% that it was me. So it was that was kind of the beauty of it, right? I could kind of be myself without. The one thing I didn't want was to have to, like, let's say I tweet something and then the next day during my scrum I have to answer questions about it, and that was the whole point. That's why I didn't really want to say who I was and have me.
Has that happened a lot?
Not really, not much. I think it might have happened a couple times, but all in all, it's separate, right? Usually, it happens like away from the scrum, where it's off the record, where somebody will ask me about it or make a comment on the tweet from the night before or anything like that, which is nice, right? That's the way I like it to be, and that was the whole point of it mostly, and that's why people tweet me all the time. Is like, why aren't you verified? Why aren't you get verified? And and the reality is that was the whole point of the account. So, I mean, there's no really need to get verified. Like,
you could probably lose the goalie with the question mark at some point.
No, I mean, that's what it is, right? I don't want to change that. I mean, that's my persona, and a lot of people thought at the beginning the question mark was because it was during the time of the whole trade thing, and they thought the question mark meant which team it was I going to go to, but in reality the question mark was, is it really me or not? That's why the question mark was there.
Right. And for a while there were a few people that thought it was me.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of people, I've got that a lot, that they thought you were ghostwriting my tweets. And it's funny because just last week, my brother, after I sent a tweet out about the Tom Brady and myself championship,
right?
My brother calls me. He's like, "Bro," he's like, "There's no way you came up with that." I was like, "What?" Yeah, who do you think comes up with it? Like,
your own brother didn't believe you.
Yeah, my own brother's like, "There's no way you came up with that." I was like, "Okay, I made it. Somebody told me to tweet that." Like, and there was the one tweet where you sent me you texted me a picture of the thing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 T-shirts, and your reflection was in the mirror.
Right.
And I didn't see it. And then when I asked you if I could use that in a tweet, you're like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then when I did,
people blew up the picture.
On the Twitter, Sherlock Holmes.
I was in Lake Placid at a kids hockey tournament, and I saw what was it? It was Thing 1, Thing 2, were they T-shirts or something? And
or T-shirts up to 5, I think.
Yeah, and so we had just done the bit with you and Schneider where we'd worn the T-shirts, and so I was going to send them to you, and you tweeted it, and somebody somewhere who had way too much time on their hands blew up the picture, and you could see my reflection and started the conspiracy. So it is. I will take no credit.
But that's great. That was perfect because that just keeps the mystery
going.
Alive.
Although you've kind of killed it now. By the way, that Brady tweet was me and Tom Brady have a combined 5 championships. #blessed. So it was good humor.
Oh my God, the maid's at the door. She wants to clean the room. Hold on.
Well, put her on. Okay, I'll wait. We'll wait for you.
Yeah, you can come back. All right, thanks.
Now, how are you dressed right now? Are you not?
No, I always do podcasts in the nude, man.
No, really.
That's how I roll.
You're not. Yeah. You're not sitting on hotel. Are you in a swanky? Where you're in San Jose right now, correct?
Yeah, San Jose.
Weston?
The Valencia.
Oh, very nice. So, would you are you seriously? Are you in like sweatpants, or you're not nude?
No, I'm actually fully dressed. Okay. I got somewhere to be after, some of us have to work for a living.
This is true. Hey, look, I'm doing a regional hockey game tonight, so back off, okay? I guess I should ask you a bunch of questions. I don't want to keep this too long because do you listen to podcasts ever?
No.
You see, I don't really even
unless it's like fantasy related.
Okay. See, I don't even listen to podcasts, so I don't know what people want. I'm sure they're enjoying you. So I want to ask you a bunch of really quick. Do you have the beard still? I haven't seen you on TV lately.
No, I shaved that after I lost 2 games.
Oh, so you're superstitious that way?
A little bit. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's not. Yes and no. I mean, sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It depends, like, what's going on, right? If we're losing a lot, then I'll be like, you know what, screw it. I don't care, right? Mm-hmm. But then when things are going really well, then I start being a little bit more, superstitious. So I guess, it depends how things are going for me.
So if you're winning, you'll wipe backwards to frontwards with the Preparation H wipes and maybe change it up if things go wrong.
I just do it that way all the time.
Do you miss... I don't want to get into your whole past because I feel like maybe it's because you and I talked about it too much, but I don't think we need to revisit all the stuff with Vancouver and everything. But do you miss at all the Canadian markets? And I don't want you to laugh at that because I know it's intense and maybe that's one of the reasons after all that you wanted to get out. But look, Florida is not the same. Do you miss at all the energy, the scrutiny of being in a Canadian market?
I mean, there's pros and cons for everything, right? There's obviously certain things that I miss about it, and certain things that I don't. I mean, that's just the reality of it, and same with Florida. I mean, there's certain things that are nice that are, you get to be able to do stuff, in public and just go about your business. But I mean, it's great to play in a market like that where, every night it's like people live and die for that stuff. So yeah, I mean, certain things are definitely things that I miss, but other things are nice as well. So, I think every city has its pros and cons, and it's tough to have everything in a certain marketplace, right? There's always going to be things that you like and things that you don't. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to make the best out of every situation, no matter what situation you're in. So I always enjoy going back there. That's for sure. I think especially since I've been traded, and I've had a pretty good relationship with the organization still and the fans, and I think I've played 3 games now since the trade, and they've all been great moments.
Would you ever look? This is not a scenario right now. You're in a playoff chase, but is this the end of your career in Florida, no matter what, or would there ever be a situation? Let's say if things went downhill in Florida, would you ever be open to being traded again, or is this the end? The last couple of years, Florida done?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I want it to be, I want to end my career in Florida just because it's home, and I'm thinking more family-wise now. The kids are older. They're both in school. They have friends, and it's like I wouldn't feel right to just take them out now. And
what are they? You have Gabriella is your daughter. Gianni is your son. How old are they?
My son just turned 6 in December, and my daughter's going to be 9 next month in March. So I don't know. That's a tough one, because I think we have a good core in Florida, good young core, and we can go places. And the thing that scares me is that I'm 37 and I'm going to be 38 in April, and I don't know how much time I have left playing at a level that I'm comfortable with. So, I want to win now, right?
Could this be your last year?
No, definitely not. I mean, I still enjoy the game, and I want to keep playing. I think.
What do you got left on that contract that sucks so much? 2 years after
12
this?
More years, I think. I don't know, 6, 7. I have no idea. I honestly don't. I think it's 5. I'm not sure.
Really?
I don't even know. I stopped counting. After.
I should tell one story that I did tell. I hope you're okay with this. You can say Strombone if not. But during the dark times when you did want out of Vancouver, you considered, you looked into with the PA canceling your contract. That if there was an option for you to which I think is mind-boggling to a lot of people when you have that kind of money for that kind of term, and you were willing to give it up and just because you needed to get out of there. I don't know that any athlete with that kind of deal in the history of professional sports would have ever done that.
Yeah, I think it was. It's not that I needed to get out of there. I just felt that I needed a fresh start somewhere else with a fresh mindset, and that's that's the end of the bottom line. That's what it was for me. I mean, and
no, I don't. Again, I don't want you to have to revisit all this stuff. It's just that
but definitely I looked into it. I spoke to my agent. I spoke to the PA. I was ready to do it. I think at one point we were. I can't remember exactly how it played out because it's been a few years, but it was something that I was all in on, and I was ready to do it if they gave me the okay and there was a way to do it for sure. Because I think it would have. I think I would have been able to go wherever I wanted if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and you were willing to sign some 2-year at $2 million a year or something to go play for a contender at that point.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure, 100%. So, it didn't matter to me at that point, the money. I think, I still felt that I had a lot of years left, and that wouldn't have been a problem anyway. So, even though I would have made less, it didn't matter to me.
You still play poker a lot?
I don't play at all, actually.
Never, because that was an addiction before fantasy football. You would go to that World Series of Poker in Vegas all the time, right?
Well, what happened was, we used to be able to play online in the States, and then they came up with a regulation where you couldn't. So that really, nixed out a lot of my time where I would play. It was mostly when I was on the road in my hotel room, and then when I was in Vancouver, the few months that my wife was away because she was a high risk pregnancy, so that gave me a lot of time to play when I was in Vancouver. But afterwards, when I got traded back to Florida and I couldn't play in the States anymore, I could only play in Canadian cities. It really
died out on you.
Give me that much time, and once you lose touch with it, I mean, it's tough to just
Did you ever get far in that World Series of Poker?
Yeah, I went 2 years in a row. My first year, I went pretty far. It was like 6,600 players. I finished 600th something.
Wow. You win money for that?
I won 20 G's for that one.
That's not bad. What does it cost you to get into that thing?
What's that?
What does it cost to get into that thing?
It's a 10K buy-in.
Wow.
So,
what did your brother do?
My brother. What's that?
Your brother? Sorry.
Yeah, my younger brother, he was with me. He actually finished even better than me that year. I think he finished 400th or something. But he still plays, and he's actually one of the most profitable players in Montreal right now. A lot of people know him, and he's become one of the best players in Montreal, I think, right now. And he still loves it more than ever. Sometimes he calls me to talk about hands and stuff, and I'm like, I couldn't care less anymore, right? So
I could not have the faintest interest in poker. I've never understood. I know it's guys think sit around and have beers, but man, we'll play a game sometime, and I have no idea even what is like above like two pairs as a hand.
Usually those are the type of people that beat me, so you have a chance.
I'd fit in well, eh? I got to let you go soon. I don't want to keep you forever. I know you got things to do, and I've already keeping you much more than I promised. It is Valentine's Day. What do you do for Gina when you've been together so long on Valentine's Day?
Well, unfortunately, we're on the road, so
you got to plan something back home. You got to have some sort of delivery.
Well, I sent her some flowers today, and I also sent my daughter some flowers, a little teddy bear, and a little box of chocolates. And then when we get back next week, we'll probably just take the family out for a nice dinner. I think we don't really go out much as a couple anymore, which is pretty sad. We always do it with the kids, because
hey, that's the stage.
Unlike most parents, we actually like our kids, so we like to have them around, and do things with them. So they enjoy all these little Valentines and all those kind of things. They enjoy that stuff.
Do they ever refer to me, if they see me on television, as Uncle Jimmy?
Yes, every time.
Right.
And they say they miss you, and they always ask me when you're going to come visit them, and I don't have an answer for them. I don't.
Well, you need to do something controversial because, frankly, down there, you're not worthy of a big interview on TSN unless you demand a trade or something, okay?
Okay, I'll stick to the regional games. It'll be fine.
I was going to say, if you don't get nothing for coming on here, guests of the podcast receive a $10 gift certificate to Young Chow's Chinese Food in Blackburn Hamlet, Ontario. Young Chow's, I don't know if it still exists, but it's the first place I drank underage, and the chicken balls were amazing. So there you go.
Sounds good.
I'll send that in the mail. I actually don't know if the restaurant exists, but I'm going to say that on every single show. So thank you for being the first guest on the podcast. I think we learned a lot. In particular, I'm terrified that if TSN wants to grab a clip from this, that they will talk about all the toilet stuff again, and then you'll get mad at me. But it's going to happen, so just expect it. And listen, best of luck down the stretch. We hope we see you in the playoffs.
Well, thanks for having me, and good luck with your podcast, man.
Thank you, buddy. That is Roberto Luongo, and this was the first edition of, I don't know, the Rubber Boots podcast. I don't know what we're going to call it, but I hope you liked it. Like I said, send me some stuff on Twitter. Other guests that you want to have on, we'll try to get them all, and no guest is too big for us to try and hunt down, and we will see you. I don't know if it's going to be weekly, bi-weekly. Look, I'm not very dependable that way, but we'll try to do another one next week, and we'll do them as often as possible, and I'll let you know on Twitter when they're coming up. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Are you wearing your rubber boots tonight?
This is JD's podcast. You're listening to JD's podcast. He's not rocking a suit, but to tell a rubber boot story.